Okay. Show me.
Hi there guys, welcome back to the Dutch Sushi channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. And I got me a box. Noble NB4. What is this? Yeah, it's quite an understated box. All black and only Noble NB4 on it. But if you are watching this video, and especially if you are into RC car or boat racing, you know about the content of this box. Let me actually slide it open. There you go, that looks a little less nondescript. A radio, a 2.4 GHz radio, and this is obviously from FlySky, the Noble NB4. Now, if you are into RC cars or RC boats, you know about FlySky, obviously, right? They are generally known for entry-level, low-cost radios. This radio isn't among those. This is a high quality radio. And again, if you are into cars and boats or boats, you know about this radio. Hot damn, man. This is nothing short of a very high quality feeling radio. And it looks great. In my humble opinion, of course. But it feels super high quality. Yeah, cool. Nice screen, touch screen. Haha. And as you can see, it can be used by right-handers and left-handers. You can simply swing the steering wheel around. And on the other side you've got all the same controls. A button over here. And even this turn dial, you've got two of those. Okay, we'll have a close look at this radio in a second. Let me quickly go through all that you get with this radio. Alright, first thing you get with this radio is a quick start guide. Now on the FlySky's site you'll find a full manual, at least from what I saw. This quick start guide is actually adequate. It's in English and it's in proper English. And you'll find everything. Oh, and it's half of the manual is in Chinese, as you can probably tell. So it's not, yeah, it's simply a manual to get you started. And again, basically this should be everything you need to get the radio working. You also get a USB cable. And for two reasons. This you use to charge the radio. Yes, you don't need AA's for this radio. Yay, cool. Very cool, in fact. So with this radio you can charge both the radio and the battery pack. More on that later. And you can also use this cable, this USB cable, to hook up the transmitter to your computer and use that transmitter as a joystick. Maybe in VRC racing or another racing game you can use this transmitter, which is nice. You also get a spare second rubber grip. That's this part of the radio. You can exchange that for a new one once it's worn off. To be honest, I don't expect this to be worn off at all. Yeah, maybe in 10 years or so. But well, it's nice that you get a spare, of course. You also get a receiver with a bind block and an antenna tube. Now, this receiver is a brand new receiver for this radio. And it's a different protocol as well. AFHDS3, whereas the previous FlySky radios all used AFHDS2. So yeah, I'm sure this is a technically better protocol, which is the reason for the upgrade. But it's also a bit of a downside, of course. If you already have cars with FlySky receivers, yeah, you can't use those receivers, which is a shame, but again, I expect this new protocol to be a step up from their previous ones. And the last thing in the box is this battery pack. Yeah, you might have noticed that this radio doesn't have a stand. It will topple on over if you use it like this. You can actually use it like this. So this is actually not only a stand but also a secondary battery. On this side you'll see two ports, one USB output port, an USB input port and a little button. If I tap that button you'll see, I hope you can see that in the video, it shows the charge level for a couple of seconds. This one is now fully charged. All green. So this USB port over here you use to charge this battery pack or the entire radio. This one you can use for whatever you want. You can charge your phone with it, a camera maybe. This is a 4300 milliamp hour battery pack, which is quite substantial, bigger than most batteries in phones. So yeah, obviously you don't need to use that secondary USB port, but it's a nice bonus, right? You can charge whatever. If you'd take this radio with you on holiday, yeah, you can charge your own or someone else's phone with it. Now the radio itself clips onto this battery pack. It has a little protrusion over here, as you can see. Clips onto the radio like so, and now it has a stand, as you can tell. Now let's have a quick look at the receiver itself. It is after all a brand new receiver as well. It is the FSGR4, which makes it a 4-channel receiver. Input voltage, enormous, 3.5 volts up to 18 volts. I wish all my receivers ran up to such a high voltage. Very, very nice. A single receiver antenna, as you can see. I would have liked maybe diversity, so 2 receiver antennas, but we'll see what the range is. It has a bind plug connector over here, the 4 channels, a auxiliary input. So if you want to run this in a gas model, you can power it with an well, battery for instance. And servo, I am not sure what that port is for. I didn't come across anything in the documentation about that port, servo port. Maybe you know, please tell me if you do. And sense. Yes, this is a full telemetry, so 2-way radio system. The receiver can relay information back to the transmitter. Battery voltage, you're running a battery voltage. Maybe you want to put a speed logger in your car. And yeah, there are several kinds of sensors available from FlySky, which you can hook up to this last port over here. Great. Now what you can also see is that the servo connectors are horizontally aligned, but not on the side of the receiver, which is more common, but on the top. And the servo connectors won't be facing upwards, which is a benefit, I think. I'm sure you've come across cars that have a waterproof receiver case. A lot of cars have that. And well, you stick your receiver connectors into the receiver vertically, and then you go and close down that waterproof case, squashing those connectors or those servo leads. You won't have that with this alignment of the servo plugs, which is nice, right? So yeah, okay, so AFHES 3, which is a new protocol, as you probably know. So I'm not sure what has changed in this protocol, but again, maybe the latency is lower, even though the latency in FlySky radios is already low. And I'll have a link to this receiver as well. It is now separately available as well. So if you want to run more cars with this transmitter, you can get these receivers separately as well. So now we suddenly see 2 transmitters. What's up with that? Well, this is my old go-to car transmitter. It is a Futaba 4PL, and I've always been quite happy with that transmitter. Works like a charm. And this is the new FlySky Noble. Slightly smaller, by the way, but I have to say that now that I have this FlySky radio, my Futaba radio suddenly feels like a toy. Yeah, it looks old-fashioned and it feels kinda plasticky and substandard, which is, well, I'm not sure what you think of Futaba. Overpriced, maybe, but I'm quite sure that most people will agree that Futaba makes good radios, good quality radios. But again, next to this FlySky radio, it's suddenly, yeah, this radio should be a lot less expensive than this FlySky, but it's the other way around, which is weird. So that probably means that if this FlySky radio works out well driving cars, then it'll definitely replace my Futaba radio. Yeah, that's quite a surprise to me. I wouldn't have expected that a year ago, but FlySky is really stepping up its game in controller land. They are making far higher quality products than they used to do. And this is one of their new line of transmitters, and I'm very impressed with it. Let's take a close-up look at this transmitter, and then we'll go and do some driving as well, of course. And then the star of our show, the FlySky Noble transmitter. Now I have to tell you that from the first renderings I saw of this radio at the beginning of this year maybe, well, a couple of months later maybe, I thought, well, there's a high-tech looking radio, right? And yeah, I am not disappointed with it at all. Now I actually have it. It feels like it's built out of a brick of granite, really. It feels very, very sturdy. And that's partially due to the materials used. This battery pack at the bottom is all made out of aluminum. This top half, the screen part, which coincidentally is the same shape as the battery pack, right? It's basically two battery packs and a handle in between. This screen part is made out of aluminium. The screen itself isn't, obviously. And this steering part, which can swivel around for left-handers, this is all made out of aluminium. This is an aluminium bar. The wheel is aluminium actually. This complete structure, no, the back half, this here is aluminium, and there's a little bit of plastic over here, and the handle part, so this part you grip onto is made out of plastic. Obviously this part over here is rubber, and at the front there's another thin slice of rubber over here to improve the grip on the radio. Now I expect this material choice to be for ergonomics. This might otherwise be very hot in the summer and cold in the winter if it wouldn't have been made out of plastic. If this would have been made out of aluminium, that might not have been very comfortable on the hands. I'm not sure, but I assume that was their line of thinking. Now, obviously it has all kinds of controls. This is a 4-channel radio. Over here you've got a trigger which you can assign any channel to, and on the other side you've got the same trigger for left-handers. You've got two sliding wheels over here, which again you can assign any channel to or use them as trims if you so want to, but if you want to do steering with these or throttle, whatever you want, that's possible. And they are accessible from the other side as well. Then you've got this turn dial over here. Again, you can assign any channel to this dial. Same dial on the other side. You've got obviously a steering wheel over here, which feels very quality-like. very nice dampening. It, yeah, feels very solid. Okay, you've got over here 2 trim buttons. And I'm assuming that they placed it so that it works the other way around as well, like so. And as stock, if you take the radio out of the box, these are set as trim buttons for your steering and throttle. So if you move them forward, they are 4-way joysticks, by the way. If you move them forward, you trim the steering to the right and other way to the left. Same for the throttle. Then you also got 2 aluminium trigger buttons. Here's one and here's one. And yeah, that's it. And obviously you've got the trigger itself. What you also see is a speaker over here. Yes, this is a telemetry radio, right? So we can tell you about your signal strength, for instance. If you drive a long way away from yourself, at a certain point you'll be out of range, right? But before that the radio will tell you that the signal is getting weaker. Now, I haven't done range checks. I assume several hundreds of meters will be easily possible. But, well, if you move beyond that, the radio will tell you that the signal is getting weaker and you have to turn around. So that's a benefit of a full telemetry radio such as this one. Also, if the battery in your model is the voltage is getting low, your radio can tell you about that as well. So that's all very sophisticated, right? Now this radio actually has 2 power buttons, which is unusual obviously. One over here and one over here. Now if I power the bottom one up, you'll see this LED light up. But you'll also see the LED on the transmitter itself light up and it'll flicker. I'm not sure if you'll be seeing the flicker in the video. This one is completely solid. It's completely charged. Now what's happening now is that the battery pack at the bottom, the secondary battery pack, is charging the radio. So there's an extra battery pack in the handle which is now being charged. And at a certain point the flickering will stop. This bar will be completely lit. At that point your radio is completely charged by the secondary battery pack. Which is great. Also, if you use this radio as a simulator or joystick controller, and at that point you'll have it hooked up to your computer, right, with the USB, both batteries will be charged. So yeah, if you spend an hour at the computer in the evening practicing your runs, your radio will be completely charged, which is great. Now the radio itself is now not actually on. Let me switch it on. That's what the second button, power button, is for, which is over here.
Welcome to Noble.
Hartstikke. Now let's have a close look at the screen itself. I'm not sure if you'll actually be able to see the screen at this moment well enough. The backlight is now off. If I tap the screen, now the backlight is on. I'm pretty sure you'll be able to read the screen well like this. Obviously after a couple of seconds you can set that. The backlight will be turned off to save battery, right? Now you see in very small print at the top the model name you've entered, VRC simulator. I'm using this radio for the VRC simulator at this moment. You've got a battery indicator for the radio itself and a battery indicator for your model. Now there's no model hooked up at this moment obviously, so it can't show you that. Transmitter voltage and RX voltage, RX voltage is obviously none, signal strength none, RSSI none. I'm not sure what the difference between signal strength and RSSI is. Maybe you know, tell me in the comment section below. To me it's kind of the same thing. Now at the bottom you see a servo monitor, channel 1. channel 2. And I've set up a couple of triggers, as you can see. And as you can hopefully see, I've set them up as toggles. So if I press this button once, that channel output will toggle to the other side. You can set that to not be a toggle. Actually, let me show you. And buttons assignment. So this is switch 3. And at this moment I've got it set to toggle channel 4, right? But I can select it to be a normal channel 4, yes. And now it'll act differently, as you can see. Now it's no longer a toggle, right? And very simple. Like I said, you can use any switch or dial on this radio for any channel. And it's very simple. Let me go back to that screen, button assignment. This might be a little hard to see for you in video, but there's a diagram of the radio in the background, and there are buttons corresponding to all the switches and triggers and dials and stuff. So once you tap any of them, you can then select which channel is supposed to be on that trigger, or set it to govern your steering exponential, which that's actually quite nice. That's a nice option. Now, from time to time you've heard the radio make sounds, which is a nice confirmation of that you actually tapped a button. And I'm not going to go through all the settings in this radio because yeah, there are a lot of settings. Obviously the basic stuff like reversing, endpoint, subtring, steering exponential, steering speed, steering mix. You can, for instance, if your radio has a deviation, if you throttle up and your car moves to the right or the left because of an imbalance in your drivetrain, you can fix that with a steering mix. And this is also for crawlers. Rear side, same side. Oh, damn. So you can set up crawling steering modes like crabbing. And yeah, damn. This radio has... Let me actually switch that off before I forget. This radio has more options than you will probably ever need for a radio. Throttle mid, throttle speed, ABS. If you have questions, by the way, hit me up a comment down below. I'll be happy to answer you. Engine cut for nitro models or gas models. Boat mode. What is boat mode? Normal. Okay. Okay. Oh. Yeah. Boats sometimes don't have a reverse, right? Brake mixing, mixes. Okay, you can set up 4 mixes apparently. One of the more important things, of course, is that button assignment, which is again very easy. And you've got an RX setup to do your binding, failsafe, range stats, output mode, iBus setup, battery monitor. Ah, okay. Oh, that's actually nice. You can set the range of voltages it should expect from your model, which yeah, kind of important, I guess. Low signal alarm, yeah, why not? Servo frequency update receiver. Ah yeah, you can update the firmware on your receivers with this radio as well, with this function. I haven't tried yet. Yeah, okay. You do of course have to be connected to a receiver. You've got to power up your model to be able to update the firmware on your receiver. And over here you can set up sensors. I have no sensors yet, display sensors, choose sensors, speed and distance. Yeah, again, you have more options in this radio than you will probably ever need. Model memory. This radio can store up to 20 models, which is quite a lot. And if you have if you have more than 20 models, it's possible. Some people have a vast array of cars. In that case you'll need another radio. Race timers. Okay, I'm not sure how this should work. I assume you'll need a transponder in your model to have race timers work. But well, it's certainly an advanced feature for this radio to have timers in the radio itself. Okay, you know what? Again, if you have questions, hit me up a comment down below. Right now I can't stand it anymore. I want to do some driving with this car. So let's go out and see how the radio performs. Alright, here we go. This is a 1/8 scale rally car, I'd say, from Hobby King originally. I don't think they still sell this car. Regrettably, it's quite a nice car. Oh well, so I've got it bound up to the Noble transmitter and I've got a stretch of tarmac over here. And let's see how that works out. I have already done a little bit of trimming. Not a lot of grip on this tarmac. Okay. Let's start by doing a range test. Okay, so I'm pretty sure you'll have a hard time actually still seeing the car. I actually have a hard time still seeing the car. But yeah, it still steers. Okay, so I'm at the edge of visual line of sight here. And the radio isn't complaining about the signal. So that looks very good. Ooh, I have a very little grip here. But works out. Cool stuff. Yeah, far less grip than I had expected. Maybe these tires are a little old. Yeah, probably. This is, by the way, a 6S capable car. I'm running it on the 4S because on 6S it's an uncontrollable rocket. Still needs a little bit of trim. But works out like a charm. Alright, now this is the point in the video where I should tell you, that's interesting. But well, basically it's a radio and it works. The feel of the steering and the throttle are very luxurious. Is that the word? I'd say it is. It feels better than I have felt in any radio so far. It feels like a high quality radio. At this point I'd say it's actually a bargain. This radio is, for a FlySky radio, it's actually expensive, right? Have a look at the link in the description. I'm sure you'd agree that for a FlySky radio it's not cheap. But in the grand scheme of things, if you compare it to Futaba radios or other radios, I think it's a steal. For what you get, a very high quality radio with more options than in most any radio. Yeah, telemetry. Yeah, Cool. And apparently the range is more than adequate. I can drive the car further than I can really see it well. So, and yes, my eyes do work well enough. I'm not sure if I can tell you anything about response rate or anything. This car does not have a high-tech or anything like that steering servo, but there's no disconnect. It's just as responsive as my Futaba radio, if that makes any sense. Cool, man. Yeah, works out. So this will probably be my only car radio from now on out. I've actually already set my Futaba radio on a Craigslist website for sale. Gone it is. Oh, I'm also happy that this car still works. I hadn't driven it for a while, but well, no issues at all. This is basically, by the way, simply a 1/8 scale buggy with a shell on it and a slightly stiffer suspension. Yeah, very little grip here. Surprising. This is a new stretch of tarmac, but well. Alright, cool. Back to the studio because it's also very cold. Yeah. To wrap up this review of this Noble radio from FlySky. So, what is my take on this Noble transmitter from FlySky? I am personally very happy with it. It's a high quality radio, it feels super sturdy, and I think FlySky really stepped things up here. This is definitely the most quality-like luxurious radio they've ever made, for cars of course. So that's very nice. Is there nothing to complain about on this radio? Well, sure there is. The first thing is the radio doesn't come with a protective pouch. Now, especially in this price range, most radios don't come with a protective pouch. So I'm not gonna knock on FlySky too much for that. However, this is a nice looking radio with a touch screen. You wanna protect that, right? So a pouch would be nice, however, yeah, again, in this price range it's common to not get a pouch with a radio. I do think, however, FlySky should make some kind of semi-hard case pouch thing available. Maybe they will in the future. It's still a brand new radio, so we'll see. I hope they do. Next thing, the receivers for this radio are approximately 30 euros at this moment. And especially for a FlySky receiver, that's pretty steep, right? So it is a telemetry ready receiver. So you should take that into consideration. And the Futaba receivers I previously used, those are even more expensive. It's not uncommon to pay 50 euros for a Futaba receiver, as you probably know. So, but still, I think FlySky would do well in making those receivers a little more affordable. Like 25 euros round about that. They are again still new, so maybe the price will come down on those receivers, so we'll have to look for that. But at this point, 30 euros for a FlySky receiver, meh. It's a bit steep. You won't be running out to the store and ordering receivers for all your cars, maybe. One other thing I found, and that's not a gripe at all, this trigger button over here. On most radios I've had, that trigger, that extra trigger, is hard to actuate. It's hard to find while driving. This one is very easy to find. No matter how I grip the radio, it's always easy to actuate. I just squeeze the grip a little and it also always actuates. So yeah, that works out better than expected. Again, I had expected this one to be just like on most radios, hard to actuate, and you'll be driving around and you'll fumbling around with your finger trying to find that button. With this radio, not at all. You just squeeze the handle and it actuates. So that's very nice. And that's about all I can say about this radio, I think. Oh yeah, one other thing. The screen is perfectly legible outdoors in direct sunlight, so that's good. Fingerprints, let me switch the radio off.
Shutting down.
It's not a fingerprint magnet. You probably can now see, I haven't cleaned it specifically for this video, so yeah, you can definitely see some finger smudges, but once the radio is actually on,
welcome to Noble,
you don't see them at all. So yeah, I think that works out well for this radio. The range is good, apparently. I can endorse this radio, very much recommended. It's a very comfortable radio to use. It feels quality-like, and big battery, 2 big batteries, so you should well be able to drive an entire day on one charge. So yeah, if you have questions about this radio or anything else, hit me up a comment down below. And that's it for this review. Catch you on the next video. Bye bye.